Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Playmakers podcast, Week 15 waiver wire episode. I'm your host, Jeremy Popolars, who you can find on Twitter at PopesFFH. Joined as always by Ryan Mackey, who you can find on Twitter at Mackey_FFE. Ryan thinks that this show is his, as he alluded to just prior to coming on. So, Ryan,
I mean,
go.
how many shows have I missed?
Huh?
How many shows have you done without me? The answer is
I
zero.
don't know. Well, yeah, because
Zero.
we just don't have shows when you're not here. So,
Exactly,
valid point.
because it's my show.
Valid point. You know, I think the argument has been won. I've been easily persuaded. Ryan, how was your week 14?
Terrible. Move on. Don't ask me any more questions.
Terrible. Move on, huh?
I lost in my main league with Jamar Chase on my roster, Devontae Adams on my roster, Chris Godwin on my roster. All these guys were in my lineup too. Who else did I have? Kyle Pitts, Javonte Williams. And I still lost because Dalvin Cook, Josh Allen, and George Kittle decided to have absolute monster fantasy days. And my main league has different bonuses for over a certain amount of carries, over a certain amount of yards. And all three of those guys hit multiple bonuses. And I got beat by 40, and I had all those other guys on my team. So it was not fun. I still think I have by far the best team in that league. Or not, maybe not by far, but I have the best team in that league, in my opinion. And I went 7-6 and lost in the first round. My fantasy CMC killed me, to be honest with you, in that league. He absolutely killed me. But
yeah, CMC will do that to you.
Yeah, and now I can't trade him. So
why can't you trade him? Because he's injured.
Because his value's fallen too far for his upside. So I'm just gonna hold on to him and hope he bounces back next year.
How about George Kittle though? Is he the tight end one in Dynasty? Although you said he decided to have a big week, it's been pretty weekly the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it has been past what 3 weeks. I think he's had pretty big weeks. But I was just kind of hoping that with Debo playing, I know Elijah Mitchell was out, so I kind of figured they'd be throwing a little bit more. I just didn't think he would have that what he did. Like I retract that statement. I expected him to have a big week. I just wish it wouldn't have came on the same roster as Dalvin Cook and Josh Allen. Because literally those three guys alone were probably like 75% of my opponent's points. So
it's really been the last 2 weeks. Week 13, 39 points, tight end 1. Week 14, 34 points, tight end 1. That's a tough roster, though. Him, so he had 34. Cook had 35. Josh Allen, 35. All tops at their positions in week 14.
That is not including the bonuses. So just real quick, I will tell you what this man scored against me. So in our league, Josh Allen scored him 53. Dalvin Cook scored him 50. And George Kittle scored him 42. He did not have another person score over 14 points. And I had Taysom Hill, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin, Kyle Pitts, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase. And I lost.
Can we talk about Jonathan Williams outscoring
Antonio Gibson? A touchdown. Why? I was watching that game and I'm like, that doesn't look like Antonio Gibson. All of a sudden, Jonathan Williams runs in and it pops up touchdown Jonathan Williams. I'm like, what is happening?
Jared Patterson outscored Antonio Gibson. Talk about a whiff. Swing
Saw
and a
30.
whiff.
Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Antonio Gibson had back-to-back 30 opportunity games, and then he gets that.
Fumbles.
20. Okay, he had 36 opportunities in week 12, 29 opportunities in week 13, and then 12 opportunities in week 14.
Fumbles, that will do it for you.
I don't care if he fumbled his head coach's. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. I don't care. He's your best player on offense, debatably, outside of maybe Terry McLaurin. He needs to be getting the football. Plain and simple.
Not when you fumble. It's the rules. It's the rules of football, Ryan. Turnovers, limited. And he ain't doing that.
Did they win the game?
I don't know. Craig Reynolds. It's ahead of time. But waiver wire, week 15?
Nah. No.
Easy enough. Speaking of waiver wires, let's go over some injuries of guys that we might need to fill spots for in week 15 if you're lucky enough to be in the playoffs and if you need replacements or you don't know you need a replacement, you might for guys that we're about to talk about. Allen Robinson. Toe injury. Highly unlikely that you need to replace Allen Robinson at this point. I feel like you probably have already replaced him. And he's just sitting on your bench clogging your roster. In redraft, I would pretty much just dump him at this point. I don't know what's really going to be out there on the waiver wire in the skeletons of week 15. But Allen Robinson is pretty much done, I think, for you as a fantasy asset in 2021.
Wait, hold on. Are you going off my notes that I gave you?
Yeah.
That's Aaron Rodgers.
That's what you meant by A-Rod. I thought you were talking about baseball. I changed that bad boy.
Why would I say...
talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Oh, and his toe fracture.
A-Rod when I was talking about Allen Robinson.
It's the only abbreviation. Why didn't you just put Rodgers? Discount double check. I would have got it. God. Anyways.
Unbelievable.
Cut Aaron Rodgers.
Well, this is my show.
See? That's why you should be ahead. You made the sheet. You should lead the show next week, Ryan. Right. Aaron Rodgers.
I honestly thought you added somebody. I thought Allen Robinson got hurt, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that.
He probably did. I don't know. Check it. Let's go check it.
He did not. He's not hurt. Allen Robinson is not hurt.
Either way,
it doesn't matter, but you're not
useless. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers. You're not replacing Aaron Rodgers. Are we replacing Aaron Rodgers?
Well, that toe apparently flared up after the game this past week, and surgery. They said it could be or it should be minor, but apparently he suffered a setback, and surgery is now on the table before the offseason. So I'm assuming that if it gets worse, either this week or after the game this week, we very well could see him be shut down. Just because of now it went from him wanting or him likely waiting until the offseason to have surgery to now it's a very real possibility that he gets toe surgery like sooner rather than later. So I personally would be adding just really any other viable quarterback. I don't think I'm going to add Jordan Love, to be honest with you. But if he's like your only viable option, go ahead and do that. But I would have a backup plan in place just in case Aaron Rodgers does go down. Hopefully it doesn't happen during a playoff matchup, but yeah, I haven't seen anything confirmed or anything like that, but it is it's confirmed that he had a setback and that the surgery is becoming closer, it seems like. But other than that, I haven't seen anything saying that he definitely will have surgery during the season. But if he keeps having setbacks, it's getting more and more likely.
Yeah, I mean, if I am a Aaron Rodgers manager, I would probably be looking for a backup quarterback, possibly, honestly, depending on who's out there. There might be guys that are startable over Aaron Rodgers just on the basis of that injury could be something that knocks him out of a game mid-game. So especially in the playoffs, it's something to get. It's a hard gamble because it's a guy that could go down early in the game and get you no points, but he's also a top 12 quarterback. So Rodgers' situation is definitely something to monitor. Probably definitely leading even into the week. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to let him practice or what his practice will look like all week, but I would think if I was the Packers, I'm going to push to get that surgery sooner than later. So he might get shut down sooner than later just to get that healing process in so that he's ready for the playoffs if that's how short-term the recovery is for that surgery.
Yeah, that was my question when I saw the report that surgery is becoming a little bit more likely. Was how long exactly would it take for it to heal and for him to be back on the field?
Yeah, and
as of right now, they don't have a first round bye. They're going to have to get out of the wild card round.
Yep. So that's going to be the question I think you would have to see and how it plays out because they've still got 5 weeks if they shut him down now. So I definitely monitor that all week. And if you can, get on that waiver wire. If you're in a redraft league, I'm sure there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. Just find somebody who's the best option available and add him at the end of your bench. Drop a skill position that can be easily replaced just in case. Another toe/ankle injury. The Buffalo Bills are dealing with Josh Allen, who suffered a low ankle/toe injury during the Buccaneers game, in which he did finish the game. But he did have a pretty noticeable limp. So what are we looking at here? Ryan, Josh Allen. I know he's day-to-day at the moment, chance to play on Sunday. Do you think that the fantasy managers will have Josh Allen this Sunday? Or do you think the Bills shut him down for this matchup against Carolina?
No, if he's able to play, they're going to play him. Strictly because they're now fighting for a playoff spot. There's no guarantee that they make the playoffs now. Like we likely thought at the beginning of the year. I'm pretty sure Buffalo had like the third highest odds on favorites to be in the Super Bowl this year at the beginning of the season. And now they're literally clinging onto a playoff spot. They're down in the 7th seed now. So they need to win as many games as they can. So if he's healthy, or if he's healthy enough to be on the field, he's going to be active. I mean, you're starting with the upside that he has, but it's risky. He was in a walking boot after the game on Sunday, so it's just something that you really, really have to monitor and make sure that you have a backup plan just in case something were to go wrong or he were to have some sort of setback throughout the week. I'm assuming he's going to be very limited if he practices at all throughout the week.
Would you start Derek Carr over Josh Allen?
I'm trying to think of who Las Vegas plays this week.
Cleveland.
Off the top of my head.
Cleveland. Cleveland.
No, I think I'd still roll with Josh there.
I agree. I'm just curious.
Just because of the upside. I mean, if you're worried, if you have that option and you are worried about Josh Allen getting hurt, maybe you have like a really good Thursday night. Somebody from Thursday night game goes off for you, and you're just kind of looking to take the safe floor. I would maybe start him just in case Josh can't finish the game, but that would be.
Do you feel like though, if Josh is good to go, I feel like his floor is probably just as good as Carr's. You know what I mean? Even injured.
It is if he finishes the game.
Even if he doesn't, I feel like. You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, because you look at the first quarter of the game against Tampa, and he wasn't doing anything. It wasn't until basically
until the offense decided they could, run the ball.
Yeah. So, with that being said, if he would have got knocked out in the first quarter, he wouldn't have got you anything, and then your floor is basically zero.
I love goose eggs.
Apparently, I do too, because
Mark has a question. So before we continue our injury issues here,
okay,
I have to drop 2 players for Henderson off of IR and Rashad Penny. My bench is Sony, AJ Dillon, Darnell Mooney, KJ Osborne, Damian Harris, Julio, and I think that's Aaron Rodgers. Or it's Allen Robinson. I don't know.
I would assume it's Aaron Rodgers, but
good times.
For me, yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers because he said A-Rod Jeremy.
Honestly,
for me, it's going to depend on what your wide receiving core looks like.
Yeah, so it is Rodgers. Marcus inside joke. I messed up earlier. But
dummy.
This is most obviously a playoff matchup. If it's not dynasty, I'd honestly think about dropping Damian Harris in this situation. He was on the injury report today, and I feel like Rashad Penny and Damian Harris Darrell Henderson will say, and Damian Harris are of equal value at this moment in time. So I feel like you're not losing that much dropping Damian Harris to activate Darrell Henderson. Do you think I'm wrong there, Ryan? I mean, they get the Colts this week, and I feel like you're not going to start Damian Harris.
I'm just not a huge fan of dropping. I'm just not a huge fan of dropping running backs in general at this time of year. Just because, we've seen injuries happen. Like if I'm him, I'm holding on to Sony. I'm holding on to AJ Dillon. For me, it's probably Osborne, and he's got Evans, Pittman, Ayuk. I'm probably dropping Osborne, and I'll roll Damian Harris there as well because you're already getting 2 backs back. I feel like those two probably have the lowest ceiling, and you already have solid wide receivers in Evans, Pittman. Ayuk's been all right. Mooney's been a target monster for Justin Fields. So that's kind of where I'd be leaning. I'd be leaning on Osborne and Damian Harris because Stevenson's not going away as long as he's healthy and on the field.
Yeah, and it's not dynasty, so we're looking at a redraft situation here, and I just feel like Damian Harris against the Colts isn't a guy that I'm like super excited to start this week in a playoff situation. I feel like dropping Damian for Darrell Henderson is not the end of the world. I feel like you're running the same running backs there, and you're activating Rashad Penny on the premise that you probably want to start him. So I think Damian Harris isn't bad, and to be honest, I don't hate dropping Julio Jones at this point. I guess depending on who your other quarterback is, if you have another solid quarterback, Aaron Rodgers is not a bad drop. I just don't know, Mark, who your other quarterback is. But
my thing is with Julio, he's not that deep at wide receiver, depending on how many he can start.
See, though, I'd start Osborne over Julio this week. I'd start possibly even Darnell Mooney. Julio Jones just isn't Julio Jones. You know what I mean? Like you rank him high. He gets Pittsburgh
No.
this week.
He also
And
says he also can drop AB, and I think I'd rather do that.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts. So he's got 2 injury quarterbacks. I would drop Damian Harris and Julio or Antonio Brown, whichever one you feel safer dropping. Julio Jones has had, I don't know if this is PPR or standard, but he's had 7 since week 3. 7 points, missed 2 weeks, 8 points, 5, missed a week, 7, missed 3 weeks, 7. Julio Jones is basically useless. There's no way I would trust starting Julio Jones this week against Pittsburgh. Not one chance.
Depending on how many wide receivers he needs to start, you're not starting him over Evans or Pittman anyways.
Yeah, you have Evans, Pittman, Nyuk, Mooney, Osborne. I'd start all 5 of those over Julio Jones at this point.
But you're also not starting. You're obviously not starting Antonio Brown. You're not going to start Antonio Brown for the next 2 weeks at least.
But to me, I feel like Antonio Brown has higher upside, so I'd hold on to him in case you win this week.
But he's already got Mike Evans.
Exactly. I'd hold on to him. But start to Osborne, Mooney, Pittman, and Nyuk.
I don't like not having the schedule in front of me because I can't remember off the top of my head. I haven't gotten that far into my research to memorize the schedule yet.
What do you don't have a photographic memory? Give me a second. I'm pulling it up.
No, I don't. I wish I did. That'd be sweet.
I should know. Well, Pittman has New England, obviously.
Yeah.
They have New England. San Francisco, I believe, has Cincinnati. Where the heck is it? Here it is. Yeah. So Mooney has Minnesota, which is just a pretty good matchup. So KJ Osborne obviously has Chicago. They play each other. Michael Pittman has New England, and Brandon Ayuk has Atlanta.
Pittman against New England makes me really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all these guys kind of make you nervous, right? I mean, KJ Osborne's the wide receiver 2 now, but he's also running with. I guess all 3 of them had decent weeks. Last week, all 3 of them, meaning Cook and Justin Jefferson and Osborne. I just don't know if I trust that to be a maintainable thing. I feel like Mooney is a lock for me of these 4. Over the last 6 weeks, Minnesota has given up the most PPR points to wide receivers. And if Minnesota's offense comes out the way it did last week and looks the way it did last week, I mean, Chicago is going to have to throw the ball. So, and like I said, Mooney's been Justin Fields' favorite target by a mile so far this year. So for me, I really like the upside of Mooney. And normally I would go Pittman, but like I said, that New England matchup makes me really nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I see, Mark, you say you're leaning Pittman and Ayuk. I don't mind Ayuk. Ayuk's a pretty solid start, but let's put it this way. At the current moment, I haven't totally finished these, but Brandon Ayuk, I have at 27 against Atlanta. I have Osborne as wide receiver 30, Pittman as 31, and Darnell Mooney is the clear front runner at 23. I think Mooney's definitely in for me. Like Ryan had said, I feel like Mooney's a nice start. And then I feel like it's Ayuk, Osborne, and Pittman are kind of a coin flip there. Like Ryan said, Pittman against New England, he's probably going to draw J.C. Jackson, and J.C. Jackson has been really, really good all season and even last year. He's very underrated. So I worry that Pittman may not see a lot of targets, and they're also going to limit those deep shots to Michael Pittman. So I just worry a little bit there. And I think Osborne is definitely sustainable, Ryan. I know you're a little worried, but we've seen it with Adam Thielen all season. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson were wide receiver ones all year in that offense. So I think KJ Osborne can at least get you wide receiver 2 numbers. So I'm fine with starting Osborne, but the easier matchup I think would probably be Brandon Nyuk. So I don't know. I like Mooney, Osborne, and Ayuk, honestly. I like all three of them. I personally wouldn't start Pittman. So
My only thing with Osborne is I agree that obviously all three of Cook, Thielen, and Jefferson have all been, I mean, positional wise, they're running back and wide receiver ones when they're playing, but or have been so far this year. But I don't think that Osborne is a talent that Adam Thielen is at this point right now. So it just kind of makes me nervous to see if that performance can be sustainable. Even though he's had his moments throughout the year, even with both the other wide receivers in the lineup. So, I think I'll. Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you and go with Mooney and Osborne. Osborne just makes me nervous is all. Just because I don't know if it's sustainable being like the steady wide receiver too. That's the only reason why I'm even hesitating on it.
yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely got the sustainability. I mean, he's seen 7 and 9 targets the last 2 weeks. So I think it's there. He scored a touchdown in both the last 2 weeks. I really do think that Osborne gives you that stability more than most people would think.
Yeah.
I don't hate starting him. I'm a little surprised by this, Mark, that a lot of people have Pittman as a must start. Unless they think that J.C. Jackson's not covering him or they think that he's that much better than J.C. Jackson. But New England's been very good at locking down at least a top wide receiver. I feel like this is more of a by committee kind of thing. But I get starting Pittman. Like I said, literally all these guys are one spot away from each other as far as I have them ranked so far this week. So if you feel like you need to start Pittman, which I would get, it's more of a start your studs kind of situation. I don't disagree with you. Just like Ryan had said, and like I said, I'm just worried. I've seen J.C. Jackson a lot being a Bills fan, and it doesn't seem – it seems weird that they have him as a must start, but maybe I'm missing something.
Over the last 6 weeks, New England is giving up, and this is on a per game basis, they're only allowing 15 targets, 7 catches, and 70 yards wide receivers over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, and like Mark says, he thinks maybe they're saying because they're going to stack the box against Taylor, which could be an option.
Which is probably true, but when you only have 2 legitimate playmakers on your offense, Belichick's going to target both of those guys, probably bracket coverage on Pittman and put 6 or 7 guys in the box and just call it good and make everybody else beat you.
Yeah.
I don't think Bill Belichick's worried about T.Y. Hilton or any of their tight ends or anything like that. Like I just think they're going to focus on those 2 guys. And I mean, do you have faith in Carson Wentz being able to go toe to toe with New England's defense the way they've been playing?
Yeah, I mean,
Wentz has been pretty solid all year, to be honest with you. He hasn't been bad. We've just seen Bill Belichick's defenses shut guys out. I'm not going to count the game against Buffalo because that game is just weird in terms of the weather and all that stuff, and that's not going to be the case this week. But I just don't. I trust Bill Belichick more than I trust Carson Wentz against Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and I mean the targets are going to be there, but even at the target share, I mean Pittman saw 10 against Tampa Bay and only scored 9 fantasy points. So,
And that's against Tampa, who has a beat-up secondary.
and then a defense comparable to New England's Buffalo, he saw 5 targets, 2 receptions, 23 yards, 4 fantasy points. So, yes, the Bills don't have, and the Bills got gashed by Jonathan Taylor. So, I mean, it's hard to argue because Taylor kind of went off, so they just got away from the passing game a lot. But I don't know. Like I said, Mark, I have him close. So if you feel like you need to start Michael Pittman, I'm not going to fault you there because I get it. I mean, he's been very good all season, and we saw it again 2 weeks ago against Houston. So,
could you see that game being low scoring?
Yeah.
With the way that New England likes to run the ball and the way Indy obviously wants to run the ball?
Yeah, I could see it. I don't know what it's the over and unders at yet, but I could see it hitting the under, especially on a Saturday night. I mean, yeah, I could definitely see it because I think Wentz will struggle a little bit. You'll see a lot more of Belichick doing things that are going to affect Wentz, maybe whether it's blitzing or whatnot. But I don't know. I prefer to start Mooney in either Osborne or Ayuk. So I just feel like the upside's much higher there. And you're going to have to kind of shoot for that with Jalen Hurts and Aaron Rodgers, depending on injury issues there. So you might not get your best performance out of your quarterback.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the injuries. Taylor Heineke, knee injury. What have you seen there, Ryan?
He got an MRI today. I haven't seen an update from the MRI. I just know that he was scheduled to get one today. He and Washington, in general, were both optimistic that he was going to be able to play this week. So I guess it kind of just depends on what happens in practice this week. I'll look up and see if there's been any update on him. Because he's expected to be able to play. So
the trio of running backs: Austin Eckler, knee injury. There was a report that he couldn't put weight on it, but I've seen video of him walking off, so that was not true.
Who's that, Eckler?
Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott, another knee injury. Hunt, ankle. So of these three, week 15, do you think any of them play? I mean, where do you think, or should we be grabbing like Dearness Johnson or what was it, Clement that played behind Zeke on what was that, Sunday? And or a Larry Roundtree or someone like that, Justin Jackson there in Los Angeles.
From what I heard, Eckler could have returned to the game last week, but the game was already in control for the Chargers at that point, so they didn't feel the need to put him back in the game. I think he'll be fine for Thursday. If not, I honestly don't think I'm chasing any of those running backs. It's going to be a three-way committee. It's a short week. Those games tend to be kind of ugly, not very high scoring. So I'm honestly not chasing any of those guys because Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly aren't super talented, and they essentially split the work after he left. After Eckler left, they essentially split the work for the majority of the carries and opportunities. So I don't think I'm chasing any of those guys. As for Zeke, it was Corey Clement that got – Corey Clement actually had more carries than Zeke last week.
Zeke looks hurt. He just looks hurt. You know what I mean?
What I think is happening is that I think he is still kind of hurt. I don't think they want to sit him completely just that way he doesn't get rusted or out of shape or anything like that for the playoffs. I think they're just going to kind of manage his workload quite a bit up until the playoffs just because they're going to need him if they want to win. I do think Tony Pollard could be what they need him to do, or need him to be anyways, but I think they need Zeke to advance further into the playoffs than just the first round. So I think as long as Zeke is out there, I think you're still starting him, but you definitely have to temper your expectations a little bit until we see him get a full workload, which I just don't think is going to happen. And if Pollard's active this week, obviously Corey Clement isn't worth anything. And Pollard's debatably in the RB2 discussion if they keep that manageable workload on Zeke.
I like it. I think Austin Eckler is someone to watch, though. Like you said, I don't know if you have him. I don't know if you're going to replace him with any of those guys, but he didn't practice on Monday, so I didn't see today's report, so I'm not sure. And with it being a Thursday night game, they could just ease him in, but
the one that I think is the most likely to miss is Kareem Hunt. I don't know if he's already been ruled out, but there's a report that he's slated to miss Saturday. So Dearness Johnson would be next in line behind Hunt, but I think it would just be a lot of Nick Chubb more than anything else. And Eckler limited practice on Tuesday.
Sorry, my computer's like freezing over here. It's doing weird things.
You're right.
Mark also he could also start Rashad Penny over one of those wideouts as his flex. Would you start Rashad Penny over any of them?
I mean, I usually like to start a running back in my flex spot if I can. So I'd probably start him over Osborne. Because I said I'd go with Osborne and Mooney. So if I had the choice, I'd probably go with Penny over Osborne, given what we saw last week. But knowing my luck, Mark, with how this has gone for me this year, Penny's going to be hurt in the first drive. So kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Trying to look up something, and I can't because it keeps telling me I'm not signed up for it, and I am. It's peeving me off.
What? What are you not signed up for?
No, Pro Football Focus. I was trying to see exactly who it's an easy way for me to see who they're playing because I don't remember who Rashad Penny's playing. So I was trying to figure that out, and I couldn't.
So they get the Rams.
They're playing the Rams.
Yeah.
That's tough because he looked really good on Sunday.
He did. He was stiff-arming people, running people over, looked really quick and agile. I mean, he's a first-round pick. He's not just some 7th round, 6th round rookie, second or third year player.
I feel like if you're cutting someone to drop Rashad Penny or to add Rashad Penny, that I would start him because you obviously are confident enough in him to bring him off of your IR. So yeah, I'd probably start Penny and then just any of those wide receivers. It would probably be for me. It'd probably be Penny and Osborne. And the only reason I say that is I feel like I trust Kirk Cousins more than I do Justin Fields.
How
Mooney
dare you?
At the moment.
I'm going with Mooney just because the matchup's better. Minnesota is literally dead last.
That's true.
Last 6 weeks. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. I'd coin flip Osborne or Mooney. And then start Rashad Penny. Mark. That's where I'm at. I'm just still peeved about my Pro Football Focus thing. It keeps messing with me. Hopkins, limping. Mclaurin, concussion. DJ Moore, hamstring. Emmanuel Sanders' knee, the wide receiver plethora of injuries that happened on Sunday. Hopkins, I'm a little concerned about. Like, he just seems like he can't stay healthy this season, and he's going to be a big name that a lot of people are going to want to start in Week 15. Definitely something to monitor. Terry McLaurin, to me, is a guy that I don't know if he'll necessarily miss. I feel like he's just kind of been a little bit of a fantasy dud the last couple of weeks. He's had just a couple blow-up games all year. So for me, I feel like most people have kind of found a way to replace Terry McLaurin. So missing him possibly this week might not affect you as much, as well as DJ Moore. DJ Moore to me is also a guy I'm not actively looking to start against the Bills, especially if he's injured. I know the Bills don't have Trey White, but they did a pretty decent job against Tampa Bay, all things considered.
What?
I mean, defensively, in the passing game, it wasn't terrible. Could have
Didn't
been.
Chris Godwin have like 15 catches for like 100 and some odd yards?
Yeah. Your point. Your point.
You said they did a good job. If that's doing a good job, then I don't know.
Let's put it this way. I expected it to be worse. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, they did well. I mean, they had 3 guys they had to cover. I'm just saying. You don't have that in Carolina. So, just saying. Just saying I'm not actively looking to start DJ Moore. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, obviously Carolina's offense is much more limited than Tampa's, but to say they did a good job.
You know, what did you expect? I expected them to be atrocious.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Trey White is going to be atrocious.
I did.
I expected a big Leonard Fournette game, which we got. And I honestly, I'm surprised at how I'm more surprised at how well Godwin did as opposed to anything else, just because Tron Johnson's been so tough against the slot wide receivers, and that's where Godwin plays the majority of the time. So I was kind of surprised by that more than anything. But
yeah, but I think people forget how good Chris Godwin is. I think that's what
I don't forget. I love Chris Godwin.
Either way, Foster Moreau is our last guy. Muscle strain. With the emergence of Hunter Renfrow, the tight end position there outside of Darren Waller just kind of
has turned
forget about it.
Yeah.
Just forget about it. Ryan.
What's up?
Do you have any, because I don't have any, because it's week 15, who's really left out there on the waiver wire? Who do you have to talk about?
Well, number one, I feel, and it's by a large margin, Rashad Penny has to be at the top of every single waiver wire list at this point. Saw 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pete Carroll came out and said that he deserves a shot at being the starter, and I think he showed he can do that as long as he stays healthy. It's been the biggest knock on him for his entire career. He should be rostered in all leagues at this point. And like I said earlier, I think he is startable against a Rams defense that's much more vulnerable against the run than they are the pass. The issue would be that the Rams offense is so explosive that it might be a little bit more of a shootout, and you might not see him be able to get that run that he did. But at the same time, the Seahawks might look to keep that offense off the field and try to run him into the ground. So for me, he's by far the number one priority. Whatever you have left in Fab, I'm dumping the rest of it on him. I wouldn't really mess around with it as long as you have something to give. I know everybody else is probably going to be doing the same thing. So whatever you got left, I'd probably be throwing it at him.
If you're a true contender, do you add him not even if you need him to block?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're – yeah, it wouldn't matter. If you have a wide receiver that you can drop, I would definitely drop him to pick up a guy like Rashad Penny just to stop your opponent from picking them, because it's likely that your opponent will be going after him, because I don't know how you feel about this.
Landscape.
I don't know how you feel about this, Jeremy, but I got into a semi-argument about non-playoff teams going after waiver, like being part of waivers. And I'm kind of in the camp that I'm too competitive to not do that. Like
I get some people's logic. I do.
I
However,
get the logic, but
I would probably side with maybe the side that you went with, which is that they should be allowed to still. More as a dynasty mentality. So, for example, Rashad Penny's getting a lot of work, and it might be a guy I want to add leaning into 2022. And I feel like if you're in the playoffs, your roster's probably pretty deep that you shouldn't necessarily need Rashad Penny. I mean, barring an injury, obviously you might need him, but I think that I want to better my team. And for some of these, if you still have a trade deadline, I feel like that waiver should definitely be there. Like if you don't have a trade deadline in your league, like say you're playing Dynasty, waivers should be for everybody. And I think that no matter what, I kind of just feel that it should be for everybody. I feel like for most of my leagues, most teams just, if they don't make the playoffs, they forget about it. Dynasty, they're not really, even in Dynasty, they kind of take a break if you don't make the playoffs because then Dynasty kicks back up there in January. Yeah. So I don't see it too often that teams that aren't in the playoffs actually putting in waiver claims personally. I don't know if it's just the leagues that I play in, but I saw that kind of was a topic this week or today, at least on Twitter for the brief time I was on there. But yeah, I would agree on the side that I think they should still be able to. It at least creates engagement in your league. So I also feel like maybe you should just have done better with your fab budget. If you really, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you're a contender, you probably used a lot of your fab already anyways, because you probably navigated the landscape and got guys that are already supplying to your team's point totals. So
what about in a redraft league?
Yeah, no. I feel like maybe there it should get shut off. Because now you're just kind of being a dick. I'll say it. You know what I mean? Like you're out of it. It's redraft. Like, what's your purpose? Your purpose is just to block other people. You know what I mean? Like, what if we're friends? I'm not in the playoffs, but I have more fab, and I know the guy that you're playing is trying to get him. So, like, I help you out by blocking him.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's collusion. Nah. I could see that. I'd be peeved. In redraft, I look at most of my stuff from a dynasty aspect. So that I see like you're improving your team for next season. So I get it. But in redraft, like you're just no. It's a nah for me.
It's not. Right, I was just curious where you sit on that. But anyways, I do have two more guys that could be of value moving forward. Amon-Ra St. Brown last week saw 12 targets, 8 catches, 73 yards. Goff seems to have the most faith in him in terms of wide receivers. They get Arizona, which is bottom 5 against wide receivers the last 6 weeks, and Seattle, which is top 6 against wide receivers the last 6 weeks for the next 2 games. But both games they should be trailing relatively quickly, so they should be forced to throw. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about Amon-Ra is that Jamal Williams should be back from COVID this week, and DeAndre Swift is now considered day-to-day. So his target share may drop if both of those or even one of those guys comes back. But in the chance that it does not change all that much, he's a guy that'd be willing to target moving forward just because they're on a team that should be trailing a bunch. And if you need the wide receiver help, there's probably little else out there. And then Gabe Davis with the Emmanuel Sanders injury. Last 2 weeks, he saw 12 targets and 2 touchdowns. He's a guy that's pretty interesting. He's more interesting if Allen is able to play, just because he's just a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky is. But for all we know, maybe Mitch Trubisky loves Gabe Davis, and he sees a ton of targets if he does play. So in what should be a high-powered offense with an injury that occurs like that to Emmanuel Sanders that he's likely going to be out for an extended period of time, I'd be targeting Gabe Davis if I needed some wide receiver depth as well.
I like it. Any love for, say, Damiere Byrd? Or not enough targets?
I just don't think it's enough.
I mean, he only saw 2 targets, but he was a top finisher because of the long touchdown. So
If you're dependent on that, I'm not interested at that point. Like if you're,
how about Rashad Bateman?
I've loved Rashad Bateman since the beginning of the year, and I know he's been up and down since he got healthy. I'm pretty sure me and you both kind of pegged him as a potential league-winning wide receiver once he came back, and he had a couple solid games, and then he's kind of came back down to earth a little bit, and then he had a blow-up game last week. So the Lamar Jackson injury is concerning to his ceiling, but I'm pretty sure he did most of his damage with Tyler Huntley in the game. So maybe Bateman's is Huntley's guy, and because I saw Huntley miss Marquise Brown on quite a few deep balls, and he seemed to be more in tune with Bateman. So he might just continue that trend of just targeting him early and often. So if Huntley's in the lineup, I actually might like Lamar better because Lamar seems to have a better connection with Marquise Brown. And Huntley, like I said, seems to have a better connection with Bateman. So I do like Bateman moving forward. You just kind of prepare yourself for what could be an up and down finish the rest of the way.
So I got one more for you.
What's up?
Josh Palmer. Is he worth an ad? In the effect that Keenan Allen has not been ruled as a go yet with the COVID incidents. Facing the Chiefs, he saw 7 targets last week, 5 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown.
I own him, or I don't own him. I roster him in a ton of leagues, a ton. So I've kind of been on him all year just because of the offense that he's in and the quarterback he's tied to and the potential for him to be something bigger next year. I would expect Keenan Allen to play, seeing as how he is vaccinated. And did he actually ever test positive for COVID? I never saw a report that said he tested positive or not.
I think he did. I think that's why he missed, because he needed negatives. He wasn't a close contact. Mike Williams was a close contact. He tested positive and needed negatives to play and was not able to.
So, yeah, I mean, he's viable. If he proved it last week that he's viable if Keenan Allen misses. But if Keenan Allen plays, then he is no longer viable by any means. So he's worth a speculative free ad. I don't think I'm throwing any fab on him unless you just have like a couple bucks left and you just want to make sure that you snag him just in case. But other than that, I'd be waiting to see if you could get him as a free ad if you really want him.
One last one. Brevin Jordan, tight end, Houston. Tight end landscape's barren, Ryan. He's been getting some touchdowns. Saw 7 targets from Davis Mills. Gets Jacksonville this week.
Yeah, and he was a guy that was relatively touted for his receiving ability coming into the draft this year. Pretty sure he was inactive to start the year. I can't remember if he was hurt or if that was a coach's decision or not. But seems to be coming on strong. Houston has traditionally loved their tight ends. So, I mean, if you're looking at maybe you got Darren Waller still hurt or something like that, I think he'd be worth an ad as a replacement for somebody like Darren Waller. But outside of that, I don't see how he – I mean, he's just like – I take that back. He's just like anybody else that's from the top 5 down. It's just touchdown dependent. You're just hoping for a touchdown. And that's about it. That game against Jacksonville is going to be an ugly looking game. But Davis Mills actually looked decent last week. So I would say he is another speculative ad if you need the tight end.
Speaking of tight ends, one last question, then we'll sign off.
You said that 3 times already.
This is a good one, though. This is
Okay.
spicy,
All right.
and it's going to be quick. But if I was a manager of one Sir Travis Kelsey,
Oh, okay.
should I be worried? 2 weeks, 5.7 points in both weeks. Same stat lines. 3 receptions, 27 yards. Gets the Chargers this week on Thursday Night Football in a must-win in most of our playoff matchups, or then Pittsburgh in Week 16. Should I be worried if I mean, you're obviously never going to bench Travis Kelsey, but should I be worried, or do you think he turns it around?
I think he turns it around because this past week was the first game all year that he saw less than 6 targets. He's seen 6 targets or more in every single game. He's seen double-digit targets in 5 games so far this year, which is obviously a little concerning given what he's seen before. Maybe teams have – the problem is that they're winning without getting him involved, really. Like they are on what, like
I think that's what's the biggest
6
surprise. You know what I mean?
game winning streak.
They won 48-9, and Travis Kelsey didn't score. That's
and neither did Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
The problem with honestly both Kelsey and Tyreek is that their defense has gotten so much better. Their defense has stepped up. Chris Jones coming back was a huge addition. I said it a couple weeks ago when he did come back that their defense was going to get better with him coming back. It's just that's kind of part of the problem is that their defense has gotten better and teams are focusing on stopping those 2 guys, but they're still figuring out ways to win and put up a ton of points without him doing what he's accustomed to doing. So I would be a little concerned, but you're never going to bench him. You just can't.
I know. That's the thing. There's fun to have the speculated conversations of like, oh, am I nervous or not? But like, let's be real. If you bench Travis Kelsey in the playoffs, I question if you ever wanted to win.
Yeah, you're not. There's no way possible. I don't really care unless your other tight end is George Kittle. You're not benching, and even then, I'd be starting both of them, one in my flex and one in my tight end spots. So
yeah,
I'm just
especially tight end premium. Either way, Ryan, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, and if you have anything coming up, shoot.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. Just dropped an article on NFT Fantasy if you want to go check that out. 3 guys that are surprises from this year that I'm not targeting for next year in Dynasty or redrafts. Feel free to go check that out. Let me know what you think. And as always, DMs are open. Always feel free to reach out. Important time of the year right now. I unfortunately got knocked out of the playoffs in my main league, like I said earlier, but that just kind of opens up more time for me to do other things. So, although I'm in 27 leagues, so I'm in the playoffs in a large handful of them, but my main league's I'm out, so I'm kind of disappointed in that. But
yeah, I had a rough week 14 as well. I didn't get in as many leagues as I hoped into the playoffs. I'm only in a couple. I lost 1 playoff matchup. I did win 1, though, thanks to James Conner. Thank you. But
what a stud.
Right? You can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. DMs are always open as well, like Ryan had said. You can also find all my writing over at Sports Gambling Podcast Network, at Yards Per, and the occasional at NFT Club. And until Sunday, hopefully. No surprise parties, Ryan?
Gotta talk to you.
Oh, maybe no Sunday. But if so, see you next Tuesday. Take care.